fucking ashamed of your fucking scum.
They're fucking kids!
Patriarchy. Fucking rape apologist, incest supporting, woman hating fucking scum.
Woman eater!
Patriarchy, fuckface.
You and your son and your everybody and your bunch of fucking men!
Fucking scum.
This is what men's rights look like! This is what men's rights look like! This is what men's rights look like!
Feminist theory is not the Bible. It is not the Declaration of Independence. It is not the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
You're damn right we target feminist ideology. Feminist ideology teaches nothing but hate and contempt for men and boys.
Feminism must be like a psychedelic drug. I swear to God, because nothing they say is remotely close to reality.
We're going to continue to call feminists out on their hate and bigotry, and we really don't give a damn if they like it or not.
Well, you know what, feminism? If you don't like the rule of law, then don't be part of society. Go somewhere else.
Blue Collar Red Pill, with your host, the One Dan Army Dan Aarons, and Jack Nightrunner Barnes.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of
Oh no, did we
Red
lose
Pill
Jack?
Radio. Sounds like we lost Jack.
we already lost Jack. We didn't even get to intro the show. Well, in that case, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, welcome to another edition there, folks. Tonight we're going to be talking about White Ribbon. We've got a little history with them. We've got a special guest on tonight, Paul Elam, Chief Knuckle Dragger, Bottle Washer, and head fuck their shit up Dean at University of FTSU. Paul, you there with us?
I am here and very happy to be here.
Jack, are you going to make it back there, brother? Oh, the patriarchy must be oppressing Jack again. You know, there goes the benefit part of it. But first, before we dig into things, let's go over the history with White Ribbon. About 2 years ago when I first started getting into this, I thought I would give White Ribbon a call, and I did. And we're going to play that call for you right now. Are we ready with that there, James?
Yes, we are ready for that. Give me just a second to cue it in here, and here we go.
How you doing there, folks? Danny Boy here. A while back, I did an article titled "Attention, Steph Guthrie and the University of Toronto Feminists." In that article, I put in a link to a recorded call to White Ribbon folks. Now, when White Ribbon found out about that damning call, they complained about it to SoundCloud and had it removed. You can see the evidence of that right here. Now, White Ribbon and folks are coming back to Hamilton again, just like they did for Slutwalk 2013 back in June. And this time it's for Take Back the Night. Now, there's two people involved of interest, Jeff Pereira and Ron Couchman. There's also a third person who I'm going to point out, and that's in their staff directory here, and that is Clay, a person by the name of Clay. And Clay is the person whom I talked to from White Ribbon when I called them back earlier in the year. Ron Couchman's interesting. He comes from the Ottawa Coalition to End Violence Against Women. Now, for those of you who do not know, I've had dealings with them before, and they put out a nice bit of femi-fraudulent factoid literature called Hidden from Sight Volume 2, in which they claim that almost 1.2 million women were victims of domestic abuse in the General Social Survey taken by Statistics Canada in 2009. That was a lie. The facts are that 601,000 women and 585,000 men were victims. And you can see the evidence of that here. So, without further ado, on to the call, the White Ribbon call. Like I said, they're going to be in Hamilton tomorrow night. I'm going to go with some facts, and I've got them already done, ready to go. And let's just see if they're going to tell some truth instead of spreading more lies. Pay attention to the end of the call, folks. It's pretty interesting. Danny Boy out.
Hello and welcome to White Ribbon. If you know the extension of the person you are trying to reach, please enter it now. For our company directory by last name, please press 9. For general inquiries, please press 2 or visit our website at whiteribbon.ca. For inquiries about... Good afternoon, Clay speaking.
Hi, how are you doing there? Greg, is it?
Clay.
Clay? Hi,
Yeah.
how are you doing today? Yeah, I just kind of stumbled across your website there, White Ribbon, and is it domestic violence?
That's the overarching goal, but what we do is we speak with men about getting involved, speaking out against gender-based violence and trying to promote healthy fatherhood and things like that. So, yeah.
So gender-based violence, like you guys don't speak out against all domestic violence?
Our focus is on men, violent behaviors perpetrated by men.
Really? Is there any reason why you don't speak out against all domestic violence? Like I seen like an ABC show that said, "What would you do?" And there was like this woman was just like beating on this guy. It was like incredibly heinous, and nobody spoke out and said anything about it. And you guys are supposed to speak out against domestic violence. Why aren't we speaking out against it for?
Well, our focus is on dealing with men and men's use of violence, with a focus on gender-based violence. Now, what we do address does touch on sort of violent behaviors of men towards other men, harmful ideals of patriarchy and masculinity and all that kind of. That's just our focus. That's what we've chosen to focus on.
But what would a guy do who's like suffered domestic violence by a woman?
There are resources available out there. We're also not a counseling organization, so we don't offer support, counseling support, either way. We're more of an education and awareness organization. So there are certainly places available to get support for that.
Do you know any of those ones?
Yep. Bear with me one sec. Right, I don't always have it off the top of my head, so I'm just pulling it up for you. Of course, everything's going to be slow today. Maybe it needs to be fast. There is... So are you calling from Canada by any chance?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. That's just where I have most of the information as a Canadian organization. Just bear with me a second. I'm just going to pull up the details here. Come on. Sorry about this.
That's fine.
So basically, the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness is where you want to get in touch. I can give you their phone number if you'd like.
Isn't that about sexual violence?
Yeah, I mean that's their main focus. They certainly have resources for domestic violence as well. I mean, you certainly know your stuff, so that's good. I think you've searched around before.
Well, yeah, because as a victim of domestic violence from a woman onto a man, I would think that we would want to take care of the whole problem and not just half the problem.
Well, that's our. I agree with you. I'm not trying to say that you're wrong at all. It's just White Ribbon Campaign has a focus on that. That's our mandate.
Well, don't you think the White Ribbon Campaign might want to pay attention to the general social surveys, which for the last 15 years put it at about 1% difference between who's committing domestic violence against their spouse between men and women?
Well, I mean, there's stats that totally disagree with that. There's stats, 99% of all, perpetrators of rape are men, so it's all,
Well, that's kind of interesting.
If we want to throw stats around, we can do that. But if
that's kind of interesting when the definition of rape only includes penetration and not envelopment.
Oh, give me a break. Okay. If you actually want to start fighting...
No, I was just kind of curious, but I was
do that.
You know what? I'm just kind of curious about your organization. Thank you very much. You have a good day.
Whatever.
Bye-bye.
And we're back, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties on my end. Danny, are you there?
I am, Jack. How you making out? You okay now?
I hope so. I hope this connection holds out. And everyone, we have a very special guest with us tonight. He is the founder of AVoiceForMen.com. He's the founder of A Voice for Men Radio, which you're listening to right now. He is also the founder of WhiteRibbon.org. He's also got a book on MGTOW published in ebooks, and he's working on many other books as we speak. Paul Elam, welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here. Honored to talk to you again, Jack. You too, Danny.
Thanks, Paul.
Oh, Paul, there's a lot of imposters out there pretending to be advocates to end domestic violence. But they seem to be under this impression that, I don't know, it's men who commit all of the domestic violence. Did that have anything to do with you creating this website, whiteribbon.org?
It had everything to do with it. I think that the phone call that was just played that Danny engaged in spoke to the issue perfectly. And I want to go back and just point out, and then I'll give you a more direct answer to the formation of whiteribbon.org. When Danny asked over and over again, what about male victims? What about female perpetrators? The only answer he got over and over was, well, we focused on men. Not why did we focus on men, not why did we ignore female perpetrators, not why do we ignore the children that are victimized by violence in the home that's perpetrated by mothers. No explanation, no nothing. It's a sort of like all the guy had to say was, because I said so. And this is the mentality as you look through organizations like whiteribbon.co.uk.au and the White Ribbon Foundation in Canada that Danny spoke with. There is a narrative about domestic violence that only male violence counts, only female victimization counts. And of course, once you start looking into the studies, which people can, by the way, look into an exhaustive amount of information at whiteribbon.org and find the truth about this subject, the reality is, 99% plus of all domestic violence does not result in serious physical harm. It just doesn't. It's mostly minor violence. Not saying that's good, regardless of who the perpetrator is, but we are talking about a problem that produces a very, very small amount of actual physical injury to victims. However, when you look at the lives of the children who grow up in violent homes, when they see mom hitting dad or dad hitting mom, and it doesn't matter who the perpetrator is, we see them in all the ways that we measure psychosocial stress factors. We see those things diminish in children in violent homes. They don't sleep at night because they're up worried about mom and dad, whether their family is going to break apart. That has an impact negatively on their schoolwork. They're more given to truancy. They're more given to acting out problems in the home and directing the anger at themselves. This is a problem that deserves a hell of a lot more nuance and subtlety in our understanding of it than just to say there's no excuse ever for a man to hit a woman, which is all that the white ribbon campaigns out there are colluding to send that message out and to mislead the world. And here's why. There is a good reason for it. The money is in female victims. Because as a human race, we are wired to protect women. All of us are. People will even challenge that in MRAs to say that they want women to be heard. And the fact of the matter is that every MRA I know, including myself, would have to fight the urge to not intervene in any act of a woman getting hurt, more so than they would of a man getting hurt, because it's in our human nature, it's our instinct. So when you want to make people pull out their wallet, what you do is you show them the image of a battered woman. and you show them an evil male perpetrator, and that has raised literally billions of dollars. We've got the financials, which I'll be publishing tomorrow on AVFM. For instance, and if I'm wrong about the numbers here, it's just because I'm not thinking they will be published, so any correction that needs to be made will be there. The Organization for White Ribbon in Australia has 11 employees and was paid almost $900,000 in salaries for 1 year. And nothing on their financials indicates intervention or doing anything different than we're doing, which is education and raising awareness. The problem is the awareness they're raising is fraudulent. It is an unrealistic, unscientific, artificial portrayal of what domestic violence is and what it means. And the reason that I started whiteribbon.org and brought on the likes of Aaron Pitsey, the founder of the first battered women's shelter in the world in Cheswick, England in 1971, and Senator Ann Cools, the first black female senator in North America, who also happened to start the first battered women's shelter in Canada, has also aligned with us. We have articles that we published by Dr. Murray Strauss, who is a world-renowned expert in intimate partner violence. The same thing with articles by Martin Fibert of Southern California University, who put together one of the largest studies ever done, an annotated bibliography of many different empirical research and surveys that demonstrated that women were as violent or more violent than men in relations. And this is not to turn around and say that women are the problem, but all the evidence points to violence in the home being a learned behavior that is carried down generationally. The whole thing that the guy from White Ribbon told Danny about gender-based is just a fraud. No, violence is not gender-based. There is no evidence to demonstrate that violence is gender-based. As a matter of fact, all the evidence that we have that's real, that's not done by ideological scholars who with an activist agenda, but the real studies done on domestic violence point to the absolute reality that it is not a gendered issue at all. And by selling a gendered version of it, which is what all the other White Ribbon campaigns are doing it, they're doing it strictly for financial reasons. Because if they can make men look bad and women look like victims and put themselves in the role of a protector of these women, people will write checks. So what I have done on the other end of this is I found that the domain of whiteribbon.org was available. I purchased it. I built a website. It has nothing to do. We don't have any link backs to A Voice for Men. There's no men's rights literature on there. There's no men's rights writers. We only put the academic information, the studies, the perspectives of the world's foremost experts on intimate partner violence and family violence on that page for an opportunity to tell people the truth. And the resistance to that has been so significant. We've already received several veiled legal threats. We have a donation button on the site, but we are earmarking all the funds for a legal war chest to defend our right to campaign under the White Ribbon name, because we own whiteribbon.org. We do not say we're part of any other White Ribbon campaign. We don't misrepresent anything. We do tell people on the site, right at the donation button, that whiteribbon.org is owned by A Voice for Men, and that the donations received there are going into a legal war chest to defend our freedom of speech. This is how bad things have gotten in the world with the domestic violence industry. We are telling the people the truth about domestic violence. Any reasonable person will go to whiteribbon.org, read through those articles that are about male victims, female victims, showing all the studies, and they will conclude that we are fair and balanced and objective. The problem is that the lie has become an industry, and part of that industry's objective now is to make sure the truth is not known, and this is why we're being threatened for it. But as others who might have dealt with A Voice for Men might know from before, we don't exactly take orders well from people. The website is going to stay up, and we're going to continue to spread the truth to counter all these lies out there to the general public about the nature of domestic violence. And I'll get off my soapbox after one more statement. I want to tell you why we're doing this, which is more important than anything else. As I said, children who grow up in violent homes grow up either to be violent, to find relationships and become violent in them, or they grow up and they find relationships in which they repeat the pattern of being a victim of violence. The current paradigm being preached by places like the White Ribbon Campaign in Canada, in Australia, and the UK is creating more abusers by ignoring the reality of the problem. We are condemning these children that live in families where the mother is violent to being ignored and to having the mother's actions minimized and excused or even blamed on the father. These will grow up to be more abusers. These were people that these kids will carry that baggage for the rest of their lives into their adult relationships, and many of them will lose any chance whatsoever of intimacy, of a trusting marriage, of a trusting relationship with somebody. They will just end up in another abusive situation. And it is incumbent on anybody who really, really does care about the problem of intimate partner violence to start understanding that the way we're approaching this now in general is doing nothing but creating demons and more victims. And we're going to try our best to put a stop to it.
All right. Where do you see this going 5 years and 10 years down the road? What do you see it growing past just being information, possibly into real world, like let's say a domestic violence hotline that people can call, or even one day a brick and mortar shelter?
Well, here's my take on that, and my take won't be popular with some people, but it is, I still think, the most pragmatic approach. Right now, the ideology of feminism owns the domestic violence industry. This is why we see white ribbon campaigns and things like that, and women-only shelters and things like the Violence Against Women Act. They already have the infrastructure developed to deliver services and to deliver education and support and all the other things that we've talked about doing and providing. I think there may be a more plausible answer in creating social pressure on those organizations and on politicians to make these programs gender neutral. They're already brick and mortar, they're already built, and to insist that they provide services without discrimination. I think it prevents us from the need of going out and raising yet millions and millions and millions of more dollars in order to build brick and mortar structures, to do hotlines that are just for men. And even going in that direction may participate, unfortunately and unwittingly, in reinforcing the delusion that violence is gendered. It is a real quandary. It's a tightrope to walk, and I can't say I have all the answers, because I know right now there's a huge deficit in services that are available to men, and that something must be done about that, and that certainly I couldn't find any logical fault in building shelters for men and in developing hotlines for them. But what I'm asserting is that we already have a $1 billion industry that is allegedly under the control of our government, that is already administering services, that has things in place to do incredible things, and all they have to do is be pushed, coerced, harassed, whatever it takes, so that they start conducting operations that recognize male victims and recognize the children of male victims and start providing services in a non-gendered way. And that is totally doable. The only problem that's in the way is that there are a large number of people in the domestic violence industry that are already waxed up on their bread and butter, making their money on selling how bad women are treated, and patriarchy theory, rape culture, other forms of utter crap that these people spout. But I think that we have the capacity to much more cheaply and effectively create pressure on the already standing organizations to start doing the right thing.
All right, Dan.
Yeah, you know what? I got no problem with gutting the white Fibbin house and keeping the structure there and rebuilding from the inside. That's but like Paul said, it is going to be a task and a half. I know that most of the people in the movement, they're up to the task. We got some great heavy hitters out there, wordsmiths who know how to rattle the cage of society's ear. So yeah, that'd be good. And he's absolutely right. Some of those white Fibbin characters are definitely looking a little rotund of late, living high on the possum, eating some fairly decent food, while a lot of men and their children who are abused are worried about where they are going to stay and whether they can leave an abusive spouse.
Exactly, and the worst scenario of all, in my mind, is the man who has a very physically abusive wife and who has children at home is faced with the decision because he knows if he takes the kids, she's going to make one phone call and the law is going to be coming after his ass. He'll be in jail, and it'll all work against him in a divorce process. So he has to actually choose to either stay and keep being physically abused, or to leave and abandon his children in the care of an abuser. This is not a choice people should have to make. And I really do believe, Dan, I want to tell you that I think there's evidence for what I'm saying. I think that everybody will agree that over the past few years, especially the past year and a half, that with the work that ABFM has done, pushing a change in dialogue, that we have seen feminists do nothing but backpedal. We cover men's issues too, all kinds of defensive language. That will only play for so long before the defensive language has to turn into acquiescence and has to become action on their behalf. I really do think that we can accomplish this. I'm certainly, not deluding myself to think that it's going to be easy, but I think that when the day comes that somebody in charge of White Ribbon Canada walks in with a stack of documents asserting the change in operations to a gender neutral, stop all domestic violence program and say, these are the marching orders. If you don't like it, get out, that we really can change this stuff. And yes, it'll take years, but we can be years from now and have that done, or we can be years from now trying to raise millions of dollars to build brick and mortar structures and more division between the genders. So I opt for that plan. But like I said, somebody smarter than me is going to come up with the solution to this. I'm just trying to throw some ideas out there.
Yeah. The shortest route may not be the full answer, but it is definitely part of the answer. If we can get those folks over at White Fibbin to play gender neutral ball, then we can make a lot of progress in a short amount of time, and we can stop adding 8 graves a day in Canada. I hope you're listening there, Jeff Pereira, Ron Couchman, and Clay Jones, and a few other from the White Ribbon campaign. We can stop, we can start reducing that 8 men a day offing themselves in Canada because they have nowhere to turn. And I would imagine it's somewhere around 100 a day in the United States because they have nowhere to turn. And we can keep on going on down the list of countries, Australia, Great Britain, and the other European countries and whatnot.
We have 25 suicides a day in the United States of veterans alone.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and it's unacceptable. It just is absolutely unforgivable and unacceptable.
The really good news here, though, I got to put this in, is that regardless of what direction that we go, whether we eventually have to force with lawsuits for government funding for men's shelters, or whether we raise private monies and start doing that, creating hotlines or things along the line that you're talking about, even if we end up going in that direction and succeed for it, the good news here is that I have no intention of leaving white ribbon campaigns alone in the meantime. Whatever strategy we employ, for instance, like I said, within the next few days, all readers at avoiceformen.com are going to see just what kind of wheelbarrows full of fucking cash these guys are raking in and what they're actually doing with it, which is fucking nothing. Nothing. They are not helping a soul. All they are is selling their ideology, and they're getting paid fat to do it. And we are going to hammer on that from here on out at ABFM. And as we all know, a lot of times when we hammer something a long time at ABFM, it does end up in the mainstream. So here we go. Either way, I think that White Fibbers is a great name, Danny, because that's what they're doing, except that almost implies a white lie, which is harmless. They're telling some of the most harmful lies you can possibly imagine, and they're making killings off of it. And now they want to turn around and legally harass me for using a name like White Ribbon and telling people the truth. It's an insane world, but we're going to survive.
It is. You know what it is? It's charity rape culture. Okay.
Yep.
They're raping people of money under fraudulent terms by shamed force. And they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing with it. Charity rape culture. That's what the fuck they're doing.
And the best part is that they're so dumb, they'll tell you that. I mean, the guy in your conversation said, well, we don't actually provide any services. Well, what the fuck are you doing with all that money?
Well, they're adding to their waist, their waist size. Like I said, they're living high on the possum.
It's nothing more than propaganda machine. That's
that
all it is.
The Dom Perignon doesn't buy itself.
That's true. That's true. But
Paul,
I got to tell you, as somebody that scrapes by on a shoestring all my life, at least as an MRA, and is still 50 pounds overweight, guys at White Ribbon, you guys can get fat without stealing. Come on. There's all kinds of really shitty, processed foods. Load up on Twinkies, get as fat as you want. But you don't have to lie to people and harm children to get the money just so you can get fat on caviar instead of Twinkies.
Paul, I wanted to ask you, we have seen in the past feminists basically throw lesbian relationships and lesbian women under the bus or sweep them under the rug, because we know that there's domestic violence in the lesbian community as too. I mean, they're no different than anyone else. But feminists want to hide that away because it screws with their whole patriarchal oppressor model. Is there going to be anything that you're going to be doing on a White Ribbon to address those issues in lesbian relationships and in gay male relationships as well? Or is it strictly going to be advocacy for male victims?
It is going to be all of the above, Jack.
Okay.
Let me go into that for a minute too, and why, because you just asked a really important and incisive question. People need to understand, and we have to remind them, especially those that are not familiar with this material, that the whole model that the feminist industry on domestic violence operates under is based on patriarchy theory. One of the things that came out of that was the Duluth model, which asserts that only men can be violent in the home, and that more importantly, that violence is defined as an artifact of patriarchy and the extension of male world dominant power into the home, affecting the wife. So they have a real problem. And so that's what all these Duluth model programs, which are everywhere in the Western world now, they're all based on that idea. And there's even a worse one called the New York model, which subscribes to patriarchy theory. And I think it's their next step in evolution, where they assert that male domestic abusers, or domestic abusers, they don't even need to say male because that's implied in everything, are not only at fault for all of this, they are untreatable, so that the only appropriate intervention is incarceration. So you can't have counseling programs for people who commit domestic violence. You must imprison them. It's the only thing you can do. And that's the next move on the feminist agenda. What's really important here to understand is the moment the first woman in a marriage strikes a man, that act totally destroys patriarchy theory as an explanation of domestic violence. Any violence in lesbian relationships destroys patriarchy theory at its foundation. So the reason that they have to ignore lesbian relationships and mostly gay male relationships, and why they focus only on men as violent in the home, is because patriarchy theory dictates that this is the only model that can happen. It has to exclude everything else, because the moment you include anything, you have destroyed the foundation on which they justify all their programs. So not only will we be bringing out information, because as far as I know, and again, I'm stating this off the cuff, I will stand corrected if it turns out to be wrong. The order of violence in relationships is as follows. The highest level of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, is in lesbian relationships. Second to that is male-female relationships, and the lowest incidence of domestic violence is in gay-male relationships. We will be digging out all the research on this, and there will be articles explaining how patriarchy theory has come to dominate the domestic violence industry, and how we can demonstrate on its surface, as plain as day, that this cannot possibly be the explanation for domestic violence. We also have all the other research that points to the factors that do cause it. One, learned behavior from violent homes. Alcoholism plays a role. Poverty plays a role. Lack of education plays a role. There are a number of risk factors for violent relationships that have, all of which have nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with patriarchy theory, that are the actual causes of domestic violence. And so not only are the feminist establishment steering us away from looking at lesbian relationships, they are steering us away literally from looking at the actual causes of what makes violence happen in the home. This is, I mean, we're talking really, really, really slimy corruption here. When you know what's causing domestic violence, you know you have programs that can help ameliorate it. Nobody's deluding themselves into thinking that we're going to end all domestic violence. That will never happen. But we could take a bite out of it, and we could create much better education and resources for individuals if we start treating the problem according to its causes. So yes, the answer is yes to everything. We're going to be covering all that and much, much more. The point of whiteribbon.org is to tell people the truth, is to give them the scientific facts, which they will not get from any other white ribbon organization on the planet, because all of them are lying to the people that call in, just like they were lying to Danny.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there. They keep on promoting this, evil man, domestic violence, Duluth model. And, the lesbian domestic violence victims are probably wondering, how the hell did I end up in the sack or living with a man when I'm a lesbian? Why are they ignoring these things? That's a really interesting point. And if anybody knows anybody who's going through the court-ordered male shaming program there, make sure that they ask about lesbian domestic violence. Keep on throwing a monkey wrench into their program. Stop them from hiding the truth that domestic violence cuts across all sexes, genders, whatever you want to say, all 52 fucking flavors of who you want to sleep with and bump uglies with. And, it's not bound by race, religion, creed, or anything else. It's a generational issue, and it's time we stopped lying about it.
Absolutely.
And that is a shame. It is literally like right now that we've got $1 billion anti-smoking or anti-cancer industry that is recommending cigarettes as a way to prevent cancer. That is what these people are doing. It is that level of deception. And I don't think that's one bit hyperbole.
Paul, when most people think about domestic violence, they think intimate partner violence, right? And of course, we've talked about that most people see, a man beating on his wife. But we saw here recently in the news the soccer player Hope Solo. She beat on her, I believe it was her niece and nephew, wasn't it? Isn't that also considered domestic violence?
Well, and I think what you've hit on is the semantic quicksand that we're in the moment we call violence domestic. And I'm just as guilty of it as anyone. Some people would say that was an incident of domestic violence. Other people would say that it was just an assault on a minor, by the way, which I think she ended up, her punishment for that was being promoted to team captain. But getting into the discussion of violence, intimate partner violence, we have the same question that comes up when a parent physically abuses their child. That's not intimate partner violence. Is it domestic violence? I think when we get into this, and hopefully this can be a part of what whiteribbon.org does in the future, is that we need a reexamine of the whole nomenclature that we have for violence between human beings, how it forms, when it forms, between parent and child, between lovers, between siblings, between relatives, between strangers. We do need a different language to describe this that's more accurate. I think that what the Hope, what's her name? No, don't tell me her name. I don't even need to know this idiot's name, but Hope, the family batterer. What are we going to call that? I would call it family violence, and I think family violence covers a whole wide spectrum of stuff that perhaps we can better define what we're now calling intimate partner violence and domestic violence, and or if you're really going to get reductionistic, wife beating. Family violence might be a way to go to describe it. As a matter of fact, I published an old story myself on whiteribbon.org today, one that I wrote years back on ABFM about a young woman that I had worked with in my professional days as a counselor who was a victim of sexual violence and sexual abuse in the home. That kind of material is going to run too. We're not going to ignore any victims. We're not going to ignore any truths in this. So I really encourage people to go there, because right now I can already tell you, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying it's because it's true. After all, I can't brag about Martin Feibert's work or Murray Strauss or Aaron Pitsey. But right now, whiteribbon.org, I firmly believe in my heart of hearts, is the most informative site on domestic violence in existence in the world. It already is. And in 3 days, we have nearly 1,000 Facebook likes. People are aware that this is a real problem, and I think we're starting to see people wake up and get ready.
Well, we're coming up. We've got about less than 10 minutes, about 9 minutes left in the show, and I thought we might touch on the upcoming conference in Georgia at Kennesaw State University. I think, if I'm not mistaken, all three of us are going to be there. Paul, you're going to be speaking, and I, for one, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again.
Same here. Danny, are you making it?
All things look positive so far. There's a couple of things going on. I'd just like to express my profound condolences to Nathan Cirillo's family for their loss. He was the young soldier who was killed in our capital of Ottawa on October 22nd there. His funeral is tomorrow. I'm going to try and go and pay my respects. So there's that. Then on Thursday, there is a lecture on suicides, male suicides, by Cafe. And then Saturday, it would be, Making Georgia. So it's quite a busy week, but I think that everything's going to roll out nicely. And I'm looking forward to Georgia. I hear that there's some nasty, kind of dishonest feminists down there. I hope that I can find a Southern Belle Big Red. That would be nice. It'd be interesting to hear patriarchy, fuckface, with a Southern drawl.
Actually, it would, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to shamelessly put the pressure on you. Don't tell me about your woes, Danny boy. I want to see that fucking tat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you got to be down there.
Yeah. Locere ad virtutum. Yeah, locere ad virtutum vertatis. So speak, now literally in Latin it is speak to power truth, but we would say speak truth to power in English. So yes. We got that going on too. We should take some photo ops there. Kansas State, out in front. I'm sure that they've got a statue or something there. We can, get some pics with me with my with the tattoo hanging out with the statue and maybe their mascot. I heard that they might have the white clothesline campaign going on down there. The clothesline campaign.
They're having a clothesline campaign where they're hanging shirts so that when men walk by, they can be sufficiently shamed of being men and being abusers. They're having a protest that ends the day before the actual conference, which I'm assuming means they have plans for the day of the conference, which is fine with me. But here's the deal, just to remind everybody, and you can still get in, contact us if you want to come. It's absolutely free. Sage did a fundraiser and raised $13,000 in 30 days, which was exactly what he needed to put this conference on. And I will be speaking there. Dr. Janice Fiamingo from the University of Ottawa will be there. And we will also have the one and only Karen Strawn, Girl Writes What, I think, personally, the biggest badass on the internet. I really do. Karen is just amazing, and she's an amazing speaker. And we also have Jonathan Taylor of Voice for Male Students. Jonathan is, I don't know how many of you got a chance to watch Dr. Helen's little documentary she did on our international conference. Jonathan said more about young men in education in 3 minutes than I could try to say in 3 hours. He's a great speaker, very articulate. Looking forward to having him there and being a part of KSUM's of Sage Gerard's incredible efforts because he's the guy that actually made all this happen. So we plan on having a great time. We're going to enjoy some food and beverage while we're there. We're going to put on some good talks, and we are prepared for disruptors or whoever else might want to get in the way. And we believe we have security fixed, and it's absolutely free, folks. 25-minute drive north of Atlanta, Kennesaw State University, November 1st. If you want to be there, come to avoiceforben.com or ksum.com and get all the information because it's all there.
Wait, I'm also... Go ahead, Dan.
Wait, you mean to tell me that we're going to let Karen and Dr. Fiamengo get a little vitamin D and sunshine out from underneath the sandwich mines and the kitten blender work?
And we're going to let them speak.
Wow.
Holy crap. Wow.
I mean, what kind of patriarchal oppressors are we if we're going to let them actually speak?
I know we're slipping, but, I watched an episode of Oprah this week. I'm feeling a little soft. So I said, okay, we'll get a couple of women
Swill,
talk.
didn't you? You had some tea with Dr. Swill,
Yeah.
a.k.a. Dr. Phil. Because you know what? The shit that he's shoveling is swill. It ain't fucking, it's right there by manure. It's right there with the White Fibbing campaign.
Yes, it is. That's why our work is cut out for us, and it's why we're so poorly funded. If there was money in telling people the truth, I would be doing a Caribbean cruise right now, being impatient with my butler for not pouring the champagne quickly enough. But there is money in lies. In truth, the reward you get is helping people, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention about KSUM is I'm looking forward to meeting the members of KSUM.
Me too.
These people are just, we sit here on the internet and we talk and all this kind of stuff. These people are actually out there walking the walk. I mean, they're putting it on the ground, and to me, they're all heroes in my book.
Yeah, they are. They are. And,
yeah.
Sage is in the limelight, but he has people, men and women, that have joined KSUM that are helping him a lot and are really doing a lot to make that a permanent institution. And that's what's critical. Sage is near graduation. We need KSUM to be there after Sage goes. And he has successfully recruited the people capable of doing it. So we're really keeping our fingers crossed on that.
Yep. Okay, guys, we've got about a minute to 2 minutes left. We're going to do a last little round here with keeping Paul there for last. Paul, I just want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for explaining the whiteribbon.org to us. And we hope to have you on again next month for our Men's Health Month.
I absolutely love to. I could count on it. I will be here.
All right, Danny.
Thanks for joining us, Paul. Always a gas as usual, enlightening and insightful. Remember, folks, you can lead a feminist to logic, but you can't make them think. And White Ribbon, we're on to you. We ain't putting up with your shit anymore. You're on notice.
And Paul, do you have any last words for our listeners?
I just want to say that this is the first time that I've been on Blue Collar Red Pill. I'm thrilled to do it. As most people know, I used to do for quite some time the same living Jack does, driving semi cross country. I have a lot of blue blood in my veins, a lot of turning of wrenches, a lot of taking care of shifting loads and supervising crane droppings and doing all kinds of things out there that really help make the country run. I always think, and I don't do any of that anymore, people like Jack are doing it, and I just want to acknowledge that, Jack, that although few know it, I happen to know that truck drivers make this world go round. They're the ones we count on for everything, and it's been an honor talking to you tonight.
Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very much. And, well, we're at the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you listening. And everyone, take the red pill. And good night.